As we wait for the platform to warm up, where I'll be joined with my guest and my weekly family. We're just taking the signature song, I Apologise, Anita Baker. I own no rights at all to the music or any music that is played on my platform. Hey, Miss Hannah. Can't hear you. Yes, darling, I can. Hello. Hi, Chantal.
Hey, Dan.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
You okay?
I am, my darling, I am. Thank you for asking. You?
Yeah. So and so.
You ready, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm just changing the setting on my yeah, that's better.
Okay.
On my light, my ring light. What's it? Do you want to watch TV? Pause the remote, please, sorry.
Wait for the platform to warm up. Have you got your water, your tea? Have you been to the toilet? Hello, Isaiah.
I'm eating one of these.
Say hi first then.
Hi.
Is she having a meeting?
Wow, we've had some glorious weather, haven't we? I guess I'm the only one that has been encountering this heat.
Yeah, it's been nice.
It has.
Not that I'll be out in it, but yeah.
When you're inside.
You can't be on the camera. You can sit here. You can sit down. But
Hey, beautiful Z. Thank you for joining, as always. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. Well,
How are you?
We have. How am I? I'm great. I will discuss off the platform.
Oh, okay.
I am doing.
I ran home. I've just come back from Northampton, so I've got here in time today.
I appreciate you, Z. Know this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just hoping my Wi-Fi. That's why I've got my door open. Doesn't fail me. Let me just check that my plug is in, because I nearly lost the platform on Saturday. These gremlins. Hey. So yes, another great show. An absolutely fabulous host. I have had the privilege of spending time with this amazing young lady, sharing what we're going to be taking you through tonight. So just brace yourselves. It's been a real eye-opener for me, considering, you know, the topic is still fresh in my mind. The discussion is still fresh in my mind. It's raised a lot of alarm bells, so to say. And even when I was writing the contents, even though we shared, it made me, I've been on a journey, Hannah, since Monday. Been on a journey. So I thank you. I really do, because one here is definitely one that will get people questioning certain behaviors, maybe for themselves, maybe for somebody in their sphere of influence, their circle. So we'll see. So we're still waiting for the platform. Welcome, Miss Kerry. How do I sound, Z?
Hello.
Hannah, am I clear?
You're clear. I can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Kerry, because I know you said the weekdays are heavy for you, but I appreciate you being here tonight. I appreciate all of you, as always. So, yeah. So, yes, I apologize. Bipolar is not a disguise. It's a very big topic, being perfectly honest. So we're going to start anyway, and I'll just wait for everybody to come. We're supposed to be joined by the USA, I think they're bipolar organization or awareness, and some other women who I know who are facing this diagnosis as well. So I just probably give them a minute or two, Hannah. Is that okay?
Fine, that's fine.
We're going across the Atlantic again, and probably where else. Good evening, Pastor Lloyd.
Hi, everybody. Blessings.
Thank you for sending that message to me today, because if you know, you just reminded me of something. So, yeah.
Don't worry. But when the time connect, it's time to connect.
It's time to connect, because that
found you.
Yeah, that message jerked me, and I was like, oh my gosh. So thank you. That's what happened. You see that support, Pastor Lloyd? That support means so much to me. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what you did today, just reminding me, like, D, anything happening today? So yeah. Hey, Queen Gems. Yes. So we have our host on my screen. She's to my left. So her name is Hannah MP. So that's her in the corner there. An amazing young lady, but don't take my word for it when she begins to share, and you'll know why I keep saying it. So I'm going to start, because time is of the essence, and Hannah has commitments, as we all do, I'm sure. So, good evening from wherever in the world you are joining me today. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to spend this hour also with myself and my guest, Hannah. So I welcome all of you, those who are first timers on a Wednesday. Thank you for being here, wherever it was or whoever it was that invited you. I'm glad you're here all the same. So where do I go from here? Housekeeping rules. All shows are recorded, and although I approach each platform with the utmost level of respect for our viewers, for this I am mindful that there may be topics discussed that are sensitive and personal to you. However, I welcome your opinions. I will say we, because I'm sharing it tonight. We welcome your opinions and would appreciate if you could refrain from any hostile comments as we endeavour to maintain a holistic platform to be openly discussed freely and from a place of authentic maturity. If we please you, tell us and tell others as well. And if we don't, you tell me. And last but not least, I hope you enjoyed tonight's platform, which is called I Apologise, Bipolar is Not a Disguise. So, meet my guest,
Hi
the Bipolar
everyone.
Mum. She goes by the term the Bipolar Mum. This beautiful in spirit and brave at heart or in heart. Her real name is Hannah. So what can I tell you about this condition or diagnosis before you hear it from, I am not even going to say the horse's mouth, I'm going to say the queen's mouth. Yeah? So let me just give you an overview of what I've come to know before I hand over to Hannah. So, bipolar disorder is a mental, and if there's anything in here that doesn't sound right, Hannah, then you pull me up on it, yeah? Great. So, bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings. The main symptoms of bipolar disorder are episodes of extreme highs and lows, which can last for several weeks. Treatments for bipolar, or months, yeah. Treatments for bipolar disorder include medicines and talking therapies. Okay, so there are 4 types of bipolar. So bipolar 1. You may be told you have bipolar 1 if you have experienced at least 1 episode of mania, which has lasted longer than a week. You might also have experienced depressive episodes, although not everyone does. Bipolar 2. You may get a diagnosis of bipolar 2 if you have experienced both at least 1 episode of severe depression and symptoms of hypomania. So, with depression, some signs of depression are feeling low, feeling bad about yourself, and not wanting to do things. Depression affects different people in different ways. Hypomania is a milder version of mania that lasts for a short period, usually a few days. And then there's the 3rd type.
A few days. Yeah.
A
few days to a few weeks, but it's not long.
Okay. So then there is the cyclothymia. You may get a diagnosis of cyclothymia if you have experienced both hypomanic and depressive mood states over the course of 2 years or more, and your symptoms aren't severe enough to meet the criteria for a diagnosis of bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. This can be a difficult diagnosis to receive because you may feel that you are being told your symptoms are not serious enough, but this is not the case. Mental health is a spectrum that encompasses lots of different experiences, and cyclothymia can have a serious impact on your life. And then there's the 4th, which is bipolar disorder due to another medical or substance abuse disorder. And some bipolar disorders don't have a specific pattern. They also don't match the other 3 disorders, yet they still have to meet the criteria for abnormal mood changes. For example, a person may experience mild depressive or hypomanic symptoms that last less than the 2 years specified for the 3rd one. Oh, let me just mute that. Thank you, Z. Yes. So so another example is if a person has depressive episodes, but their symptoms of mood elevation are too mild or brief to be diagnosed as mania or hypomania. Yeah. So with that said, I just want to say, if you think you might have been experiencing, or someone else you may have noticed at any time, any of the above mentioned, it is suggested you can speak or to your GP, a trusted person, but please do seek professional guidance. With that said, having outlined all of what I've come to know in a short space of time, no better than the person who I've brought on the show today to tell you, having been diagnosed herself, the lovely Hannah, the Bipolar Mum. I welcome you, Hannah, to the Mind Gym platform. Okay, so we've had our meeting, so I've got a flow here going that I like for you to follow. So you were removed from the family home at 13. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And placed in the care system. So please,
that's correct.
yeah, so please tell us in your own words what happened before that.
I was raised by my parents, my mum and my dad. They were married for so about 10 years. They separated. They separated when I was around 9, but the divorce didn't fully go through. Obviously, the divorce proceedings. Post my mum and dad separating, I experienced childhood sexual abuse, which started around, well, it's not post actually, it started around the age of like 7, 8, and it got more physical, say. There was inappropriate touching from a young age, but it didn't get fully intimate, so to speak, until I was around 11. Basically, it went on for about 2 years, and then it was disclosed. It was found out, discovered that was happening, and because of the situation, social services and police obviously got involved, and I was given a choice whether I wanted to basically stay within the family unit, or if I wanted to go, and I chose to go. I chose to go to be looked after, basically, due to who the perpetrator of the abuse was. I just wanted a break. I just wanted to go away. So yeah, I chose to go into the local authorities' care.
Okay, well, not okay. Thank you for that. So you said that you experienced sexual abuse, and for legal reasons, no names or the perpetrator cannot be called. It's understandable, and we respect those choices. When I asked about this whole condition or diagnosis, you said that the causes were childhood complex trauma, which covers a thing called PTSD, which is one of them, something that is initiated by mental health difficulties, having mental health difficulties. So let me just talk about complex trauma. So complex trauma describes exposure to multiple traumatic events, often an evasive, interpersonal nature, and the wide-ranging long-term effects of this exposure. These events are severe and pervasive, such as abuse or profound neglect. And in your case, it was abuse. Yeah. The PTSD side of it, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is a set of reactions that can occur after someone has been through a traumatic event. The chance of developing PTSD depends on the type of event experienced. Yeah? So what I've outlined 4 types of bipolar. What type do you have?
I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2.
Right. What is living for Hannah like with this diagnosis of bipolar type 2?
To be honest, it genuinely depends on, I know people say they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, but for me, it is a reality of how I wake up in the morning. I can wake up happy, productive, stable, everything's fine, and I'm able to live a somewhat normal life, or something very simple can which other people might find manageable can send me into an extreme of being really, really high and manic, or the other extreme of being in a black hole depression. It can be as simple as, for me, I have like you said, I've got complex trauma disorder. It's to do with abuse. I have issues with processing death, and I have, because of bullying and things that I experienced as well, I also have social anxiety. So where they all link into each other and how they affect my bipolar. So simple things for me, like I do not like to use public transport. For me, and it's not just a COVID situation. It's mentally, I have to prepare myself for the fact that I'm going to be in a very exposed environment where socially I can't control what's going on around me. So yeah, and the mania, I'll talk about mania. Mania for me, it's like you've been you have the best day of your life every day for however long you experience mania. That can be, as you said, like a week, a month, couple of months. For me personally, when I experience mania, it's a blackout time in my life. I struggle to remember what I've done or what I've taken part in or things like that. I don't sleep. I have drank like 1,000 Red Bulls because I can manage on like an hour sleep, and I can go for days on minimal sleep. I don't really have an appetite. I don't really feel hungry. I literally feel full of energy. Like I'm just, it's like a buzz that never leaves. I'm very irrational in like the things that I do, very spontaneous, very, okay, yeah, you know, it's just, everything is a happy day. Every day is like my birthday kind of thing. But on the flip side, then when I have depression, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to see anyone. I want to stay in my bed. I start to think like I don't have a purpose. I feel like that's the way to describe it. Like there is no purpose to me getting up out of this bed, getting up and doing anything. The worst of it is the crying. I don't even have to have a reason to cry. I will just be sitting crying. There's a lot of intrusive thoughts that come. It's quite, it literally is the extreme. So it's either the one or the other, but being medicated is what keeps me at what they call a baseline state, like baseline level.
Okay, so before you go into the description of the baseline, I just want to let the viewers know that Hannah has 5 children. The first 4 children she had them undiagnosed, and she's going to take you through that stage. But she touched on the baseline, so I just want to make it clear so that you are in sync with this journey with us. So you touched on the baseline, Hannah. So what is the baseline stage of medication?
What baseline is, it's designed to not allow me to get too high, but also to not allow me to get too low. At first, I really struggled with it because I was so used to feeling the extreme of emotion to then feeling almost nothing. It was like, I would say to people, I want to be angry, I want to be upset, but I can't get it out. That it just wouldn't come out. So, and then there was times when I was like, I'm happy. I know I don't look like it, but I'm actually happy. And because of like how the medication is designed to balance the chemicals in your brain, so it doesn't allow you to get too high, too low, it kind of muffled how I perceived things, or how my emotions and my moods reacted to things. But it took some juggling, and then it took some juggling, and it got it right. And it means now that I'm able to live a somewhat normal life, whatever normal is.
Before this normality and everything kicked in, how often did they review you to know if you needed tweaking?
Sorry, you're quite quiet.
Sorry, I said, how often did they review you? Can you hear me?
Yes, can I hear you now?
How often did they review you to know if when you need tweaking, and when or why would they have to tweak the dosage?
Basically, initially, I was being seen by a clinical psychiatrist once a month. That's when I very, very first went on medication. And then once they've got the dosage right, what worked for me, then I was discharged back to my GP, which means now that if I feel I'm not well, or I'm like, I don't feel like, oh, that's not how I should be feeling, then I'm to make contact with my GP for them to review my medication dosage, and see if there's something they can do about that, preferably, before it gets to a crisis stage. So typically I have they say to me to come and get checked every 6 months, unless there's an actual issue. Right. Because sometimes, like initially, like I said, I was initially being seen once a month. I went through several different types of medications because I had extreme reactions to them, not mentally extreme, the physical extreme side effects I got. Okay. So they had to like change a lot of medication to see what worked.
So the symptoms were the side effects that cause you to have to find the right medication.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about a crisis point. Can you tell us about the typical symptoms that you are familiar with, and what is the crisis point?
For me to be classed as at crisis, basically I would have to be, I've got a mood log, which I do, if I'm starting to feel unwell, it's basically a scale of 0 is baseline, basically, and then 5 would be mania, and -5 would be depression. So so if you're like 0 or 1, 0, 1, maybe 2, like if you're getting 2, that's kind of like okay, you need to maybe start watching it. Right. Or if you're like, like if you're having a bad day, I could record it as a -1 because I'm having like a bad day, I'm just not in the mood. But if I then was to get to like -2, when I'm feeling depressed and I've noticed that I'm starting to withdraw, and other things, then I would have, basically I've been put on a crisis plan, which first port of call would be my GP. Then if my GP felt it necessary, they would refer me to either my psychiatrist, back to the psychiatrist, or back to the psychiatrist, or they would refer me to the, what's it called, home care treatment team, who come into the house to treat me. If I really am really bad, basically, they would recommend I go to A&E. And if it's really, really, really bad, then I would need to go to hospital, basically.
Okay. We're going to touch back on that later on. So, at the age of 14, you have your first child, who is now 16, and it's a boy. And then your second born son, who is 13 now, and then your third born son, who is 12, and then your fourth born son, who is 9. And we will talk about your fifth child, who is 4, a little later. So you told me that you struggled to bond with the child. And this level of detachment continued after each birth, of which you recall falling into depression.
I was...
Leave the door, please. I need it open.
I was, after each birth, I was...
Don't come in yet, Hannah. I want to finish this part, because this is where that big bulk is going to come. So you had the depression. So by your third child, you encountered postpartum psychosis. So I'm just going to give the viewers an overview of what this is. So this, psychosis is a term to describe when you experience reality in a different way to other people. Common examples are hearing voices or believing that people are trying to harm you. Psychosis can be a one-off experience or linked to other conditions. There is no single cause of psychosis. Researchers believe that environment and genetics may affect who develops psychosis. You mentioned that a psychiatrist labeled your switch as being what?
Gosh, I can't remember how I described it. That's really bad.
All right.
He kind of called it. Okay,
If you want me to, I'll go. Hopefully it will all tie in. So, would it be fair to say that you could have been at a crisis point in this instance? And can you explain what this felt like and was for you? So, during all 4 of your children, as I said earlier on, you hadn't been diagnosed with having bipolar. You experienced detachment. You couldn't. In your words, you said that there was no emotional, maternal feelings. So
it was like I was his. My children, when my first one I had a very traumatic labor, delivery process. Literally, I was in labor for 4 days. They tried to induce me, it didn't work. My waters broke, there was no contractions. I dilated, I tried to push. He was big, not necessarily big, like a big baby, but for me, he was a big child. So then pushing, he's got broad shoulders like his dad. So me being 5 foot, trying to get a rugby type baby out, it didn't work. So then I pushed for hours, didn't happen. I ended up being rushed for an emergency cesarean. When my son came out, my mum was the first person to hold him. I didn't even hold him because I was shaking so much. I was just traumatized, and to be fair, I just didn't want my baby. I just associated my baby with causing me all of this trauma. Just that's the only way like to describe it. It was a lot, and I went home. I got discharged from the hospital when he was like 5 days old. And to be fair, for the first couple months of his life, those 5 days were the only 5 days where I had to fully look after him, because I was at the hospital. It was me and me alone. When I got home, I just did not want to. I didn't want that whole cuddly. I didn't want it. You know, I'll feed him, change him, do that. I had no attachment with him, and I just started to resent him. I resented the fact that I had to go for a cesarean to get him out. I resented a lot of stuff, and I resented him because every time I just saw him, I kind of associated it with the bad experience that I had with birth, and that led me to be in depression. But it was diagnosed as postnatal depression. I was put on antidepressants then. That's me at 15, put on antidepressants. They lifted my mood. They kind of stabilized me. It was fine. But the thing is, because I was undiagnosed with bipolar, the problem with antidepressants is they stop you from being low, but they also, if with someone with bipolar, because they're designed to be an upper, too much up can send you manic. And that's what happened to me. I would go manic, but it would be undiagnosed mania due to the fact that I had no diagnosis of bipolar. So but how it was perceived is that, oh, she's fine. It's just the depression. Depression's got clear. So yeah, and that persisted to happen after every birth. Basically, I had quite traumatic births, and I would go depressed, go low. They'll put me on antidepressants because statistically, if you've had postnatal depression once, you are very likely to have it again with subsequent births. So knowing that, when I then had depression after each subsequent birth, they just assumed postnatal depression again, put me on the pills, get me back, and then off I go, so to speak.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. I'm hoping everybody's on board, because that is a lot for the brain to absorb. So I've got a question here. Sean wants to know what happened at the beginning. Maybe Sean didn't join us at the beginning. What events led up to your first diagnosis? Did you go undiagnosed for a long time before having a diagnosis? So we're gonna move into that section, Sean. What difference did it make to how you felt once you received the diagnosis? That's all gonna come round two, part two. Right, so this section that I'm gonna touch on is something that myself and Hannah spoke about, and she calls this 12 years of slavery. So, and she will tell you why it's called that. Oh, Z says, is it at my end, or does connection keep cutting out? I don't know, Z. No one hasn't said anything to me. They said my voice wasn't. Jem said it's cool. Chantel said it's much better. Sean said it's much better. Hannah, how is it for you, Pastor Lloyd, and everyone else? No one
I'm okay.
Yeah? Okay. So this section is called the 12 years of slavery. So apart from, or aside from being a young mum, coping with your diagnosis, all your children are for 5 different fathers, to which you shared with me that you cannot recall sleeping with any of them. What was,
my daughter, I can.
okay,
My daughter was planned. Not planned, but
yeah, all right.
not planned. But not planned,
Okay,
yeah.
so let's just home him on that where you've lost recollection, sleeping with any of them. What was life like for you between those tender ages of 15 to 27, where you've had the 4 boys and then soon to have your daughter? What was life like for you? Why you've called this the 12 years of slavery? Take us through this.
I call it 12 years of slavery. I call it sounds a bit extreme, but for me, that was my life. It was the extreme. My first son, Dad, I got pregnant, quite literally say I've been looked after in the care system for about 4 or 5 months. I slept with him once and I got pregnant. That was off the back of me still dealing with the police and that situation for the sexual abuse that I'd experienced prior. So that was just it was literally, that's hence why I call it 12 years of slavery, because it was one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. I then went on to meet my second son's dad while I was manic, but I didn't know I was manic. And when I came down from being manic, I then found out I was pregnant. And that was like a repeated pattern. Have the baby, get depressed, get sorted out for the depression, go manic, because my manic at the time is a blackout, come down from the mania, or get the mania, like the mania that just resolves itself, and then I'm discovering I'm pregnant, basically. In between that, my children's dads were and are, my eldest son's dad, he's the only one I can say is stable in my life, in terms of my life and his child, because he knows me prior to when I started to ride the roller coaster of bipolar, the highs and the lows. My second son's dad, he was rather abusive to me, and it resulted in me filing charges against him for grievous bodily harm and having an injunction put in place, because on an occasion he attacked me and attempted to rape me. My third son's dad, again, was very abusive, and I kind of escaped, so to speak, from him, because I didn't want my son dealing with his aggressiveness and things like that. And then post me stepping away from him, he then, you might as well say, became a career criminal, because in the time that my 12-year-old son is born, you might as well say at least once or no, probably twice a year, at least twice a year he's in prison. He's gone into prison for something. And a lot of his crimes are very violent crimes. So that's why I say I kind of escaped, because with him, I just thought, I don't want to do this again. I don't want this again. So that's the physical side of the abuse that stopped, but then I got into the subsequent domestic violence relationships, in that I was manipulated, I was coerced, controlled. So I stopped dealing with physical domestic violence and started dealing with people who would then, because I was suffering mentally, they would use it to their advantage to then mentally abuse me. And I have something which is described as Peter Pan syndrome. Following having a cognitive assessment, I was said that I am mentally younger than my chronological age. And I have a very childlike in a sense, a childlike approach to like how I meet people and how I am with them. So where men obviously could see that, they found it easy to manipulate because I aim to please. That's just as which is what a child does. A child aims to please. So I can't hear.
Muted. Sorry, Hannah. I said I could well imagine that manipulation from these older men, and yeah, I shake my head on that. I really. So, when you had your 5th child and your first daughter,
Yeah.
you said that you let us know that from the age of 15 to 27, your life was undiagnosed as
25. I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder at 25.
Right. So all the
And
children.
then that's why it was 2 years stable before my daughter came
along. So we're looking, and we can see already how this therapy, the treatment, everything started to kick into your system. Now, you spoke about when you had your 5th child, you was in your daughter was born when you was in a different mental place when you gave birth to her, and you spoke about these 2 hormones that were attached to this new treatment that wasn't there with the other 4, which was the oxytocin and the serotonin, which we know the oxytocin is what they call the love hormone, or the cuddle hormone, and the serotonin is called the happy chemical because it contributes to well-being and happiness. So it's easily identified with where you're going to take us through the journey of having your 5th child, your first daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. For 2 years prior to having my daughter, I got my diagnosis of bipolar disorder. That was following I don't even know how to describe that episode, because depression, that was to date my worst depressive episode I had experienced, which led me, basically one day I was in the house and I was trying to cook for the children, and literally I started to hear voices, and I hadn't experienced hearing voices since having my son, when I experienced postpartum psychosis, and the voices were literally was like, oh, if you take the knife and cut yourself or stab yourself and die, no one's going to care, no one's going to miss you. Just very intrusive thoughts, telling me, I used to live on like a high rise, and it was telling me like, jump out the window, no one's going to care, you're dead, things like that. Literally, I stopped cooking. I gathered up all the sharp knives in the house, and I put them, as I said, I'm 5 foot. I climbed on top of my kitchen counter and I put them on top of the cupboard. I came out the kitchen and I locked the kitchen door, and I put the key under the door so that I couldn't get the key unless I purposely went and got something to get the key. And then I went in my room and like I sorted out the kids' food. So then I went in my room, sat in my room, and I locked myself in my room that night, because I was just thinking, if I open my window, my bedroom door, I don't trust myself to not go in the kitchen, and I just couldn't fathom what might happen if I came out my bedroom. In the morning, I was ringing my doctor's surgery and I said to them, I need to see someone. I need to see someone now, because I don't know what's going to happen. My doctor's surgery, I don't know if they took me seriously or not, but they said they're going to get someone to call me back. In that meantime, I then called my children's school, and I said to them, I'm sending the kids, I'm coming with the kids in the cab, but we're running late. So I got in the cab, I went with the kids in the cab, and then I walked to A&E from dropping the kids to school. And along the journey to A&E, I literally was hearing voices, step out in front of a car, just fling yourself in front of it, it was jump off the bridge, everything you could do trying to harm myself, it was there. And when I got to A&E, I just said to them, I'm not leaving unless you help me, because I can't take the noise in it. So either you're going to silence it or I'm going to silence it. And if I silence it, it means going outside and it is what it is, basically. The psychiatrist at first, I don't know, she thought that they had an on-duty psychiatrist assess me. And when she actually, at one point, she was trying to talk to me and the voices just would not shut up. That's the only way to describe it, wouldn't shut up. And I literally started shouting while I was in the cubicle. I was like, shut up, just shut up. And she asked me, what's happening? And I said to her, they're telling me not to talk to you. They're telling me it was just too much going on in my head at the time. And so that's when they said to me, they're going to keep me in. They gave me a sedative because I literally started, when they said they started to come in, it's like as if the voice was then telling me, no, go outside, go run, go, just. So then I was then fighting with them that I didn't want to stay no more. I wanted to go. So that then led to, they ended up sedating me, and I got admitted to a psychiatric unit, and that's where I got my diagnosis of bipolar disorder. What led to my daughter, when I fell pregnant with my daughter, I was really scared because I just thought, oh my gosh, here we go again. Even though I was on medication and everything, I just thought, here we go again. My pregnancy was so chilled, so relaxed, so calm in comparison to my boys. I was on medication, even though I was on a lowered dose of medication, I was on medication and I was just chill. When I had my daughter, for the first time ever, I experienced that rush of oxytocin, that rush of love, that rush of attachment. The levels to how I experienced it, the anaesthetist, I had a cesarean section, the anaesthetist actually thought that I had blacked out on the table because I'd gone to sleep. My daughter was born, she cried for about a minute, if that, and then she stopped crying and I got scared and I started saying, what's wrong with her, what's wrong, and they said, she's gone back to sleep. They literally said to me, she's gone back to sleep. She's sucking her thumb, she's gone back to sleep. And I went to sleep on the operating table for a bit. That's why the anaesthetist thought something was wrong. The downside of receiving that first rush, because my medications had been reduced a lot because due to pregnancy, I went manic, I went high. And nobody had prepared for me to go high because everyone had expected me to go low. So it took a while for them to pick up on the fact that I'd gone high, because they wasn't looking out for signs of me being high, they was looking out for signs of me being low. So it took a while to pick up on it, and then I was admitted to a mother and baby unit, psychiatric ward, but it's a psychiatric unit, but I was on the mother and baby ward with my daughter while they got me back on medication and back on my usual dosage. With my daughter, it was just it has been completely different experience from day one to with my sons, because I've had depression, but it's not depression because of a traumatic birth and all of that. I unfortunately lost my nephew and my granddad within a very short space of time, and as with trauma, it sent me into a depressed state. It sent me, I don't know, my body doesn't know how to deal with grief. It's one of the emotions it doesn't process very well, so it just goes straight to depression. So I've experienced depression since I've had her, but it wasn't as a result of her, so to speak.
Keep forgetting I've got myself muted. So I would say then, or would it be fair to say that that sunken depression is acceptable because of the circumstances of grief?
The medical team, my medical team, expected, to be honest, they expected it to come, because I do not deal with death at all. I take it to, for me, basically, I've experienced a lot of childhood traumas. When I was quite young, probably prior to like about 5, 6, one of my family members lost their baby. They had a stillborn, and I saw the stillborn baby, and it traumatized me. From then, the weird thing is, I never cried at that. Then when I saw the baby, when my mum and dad went to see the baby, they brought me. Don't know why, but they did. And I saw the baby in the cot, normal, like, you know, like in the cot, like a baby, like a normal baby. And it didn't register to me that the baby was not alive. It wasn't until a couple of weeks later, when we went to the baby's funeral, that it registered. And even then I didn't cry. And it's like, for me now, when I hear death, it's almost as if it takes me back to seeing that dead baby. It just literally goes straight back to that.
It's the wire.
And yeah, so
that's kind of like
the
wiring of the brain.
That is the post-traumatic stress disorder. Something happens and it brings you right back to the initial event that traumatized you. So when my nephew passed unexpectedly. He got sick, he passed literally within the space of about 10 days. Got sick and passed. And I literally went back to he literally took me right back there to that. And then at my nephew's funeral, I didn't go anywhere near the coffin and things. I didn't go and see my nephew at all. About a week after my nephew's funeral, we was told that my granddad had terminal cancer and he probably had 6 months to live. He lasted a month, just over a month. And I never got to say bye to my granddad. I never got to say bye to my nephew. To try and protect me, my family thought it was best for me to not go and see my granddad while he was in the hospice, because of where I'd already started to deteriorate from my nephew. They tried to manage something which they thought was best, but it kind of caused another trauma there, because then I was like, why would you stop me from saying bye? It didn't give me closure, which led to me then experience psychosis and stuff. When I went after as I said, I had bad depression after my granddad. I would see my granddad in the house with me. I would hear him calling my voice, like calling my name. I would be walking down the street, and my granddad is Grenadian. He has a very strong Grenadian accent. So I would be walking and I would hear my name called, and I'd say to people, where's it coming from? Because it's his voice, it's the accent. I can hear the accent. But my medical team was prepared for that, and that ended up being another time where they sedated me to try and get my brain to calm down, because my brain was just not letting me rest.
Can I ask Hannah, because I'm sure everyone's curious to know. So we know you've got 5 children, and we're hearing these extreme bouts of highs and lows that you've explained to us. There's an event that happened in 2018, as recent as that. But what is life like as a mum for these children, for your children, when you're going through what you go through when it happens? What happens to the children? How do they?
Joining us. Yeah, she's woken up. She's woken up. My daughter is kind of like unaware to how ill I can be, because the only experience she's had is like basically me dealing with the deaths.
Right.
She's never really experienced me high or low other than that. But my boys have experienced the high and the low from very, very early on. And it had a profound effect on my parenting, my ability to parent, and also my bonding with my children. Like I said, I struggled with them. Whenever I was ill, my children would go to my mum while I was really unwell, and I would go and, like manic or depressed, go and deal with whatever it was. And then they would come back to me when I was better. So my children got used to the cycle of mummy for like 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, and then nanny maybe for 1 or 2 years. They developed a parental relationship with my mother, but with me, because I was then seen as like the fun one, I had more a sibling relationship with my children, and they just did not they did not see me as mum. They knew I was mum, they knew me, I am your mum, but in terms of an authoritarian and someone that does all the school and all of that, that was my mother's. But
you say they went to your mum's, but I'm curious to know, whilst you were in the house and you felt this low or high coming on, how did you not manage to scare the children, or if you did, in your behavior, like your outburst? Or
I think
how did
because
you manage?
when I'm depressed, I tend to be like I say, I want to be at home. I just want to be in my bed. I don't really want to go out and that kind of stuff. So the kids would kind of see me, like more of the, let's stay at home and watch movies. I tried hard to hide it from them. I hid a lot from my children, trying to protect them. But when I'm high, because I've got all that energy and stuff, I'm like, woo, let's go cinemas, let's go there, let's go. So that's what I mean. It's like having a big sister. You've got all the fun stuff, but then when I'm low, you've got someone who just wants to chill out and stuff. So that's why they was protected a lot. And if I felt that I was getting to the point where I can't manage them, they go to my mum's. If I felt like I was unsafe or they are unsafe with me, they go to my mum's.
Okay. So that makes sense then. So I'm gonna jump a section because I want to know what was your childhood like? Has someone that was born and raised in the church, whose father was a deacon, and whose mother was head of the women's ministry. Literally, you were a pastor's kids. You said that your mum literally went into labor in church with you.
Yeah, my mum's waters broke. I was born 4 weeks early. My mum's waters broke in church.
Wow.
And yeah, then like literally the next day, I was born.
Okay, so
when I
go on.
When I say to people, yeah, I'm born and raised in the church, I literally mean born and raised. We grew up in a Christian household. We were very sheltered from a lot of things. I went to, up until secondary school, I'd always attended a Christian primary school. So even that sheltered me from a lot of things. When I went to secondary school, I got a culture shock. Because I was just like, oh, wow. It was a big wow for me. Growing up in the, like, literally, I'll be at church school I'll be at primary school dealing with church stuff. And then on like Wednesday evening, my parents would have like prayer meetings or cell, and then on the Sunday, we're going to to church. We're there from church opens to church shuts, doing Sunday school, so church was all I knew, but I did not know Christ. It was a very, very one-sided thing. Like, it was routine. The same way you get up every morning, you brush your teeth, it was routine for me. It wasn't something that I felt or that I had a personal connection with. It was just something I did.
So what you said to me was this. You said to me, during your domestic violence episodes or experience that you had, and whilst you was going through your brokenness during tough times, you said that you went to church to cry, and you just kept crying. You used to just...
It was the one place. Church is, ironically, even though I may not have felt that I had a personal relationship with Christ, church was the only place I felt safe. It was the only place I went to feel safe, to feel like, it felt like home. It felt like home. It was, that's how I'll just describe it. I could go there and I felt safe, and I felt no matter what I do here, whether I scream, I shout, I cry, whatever I do, I'm in a safe place.
Right, man. You also mentioned something like something was tugging at you, or you felt like something was always pulling into your spirit.
Yeah, it's literally, it was, when I felt at my worst, when I felt, even now it happens, when I feel at my most broken, church is my safe place. Church is where I go, and even not necessarily where I go, because I haven't been to church for months with lockdown and all that, but I literally just I have the ability to be ministered to through song, through praise and worship, and I will turn off the lights and I put on my praise and worship, and it's literally like the scripture where it says, "Be still and know that I am God." My mind is told, "Be still." So whatever is going on, it stops. It stops. It allows it gives, I know this might sound a bit weird, but it's like what they do when they medicate me to sedate me, to get my brain to calm down. It has that effect. It calms it down. It stops. It's like when you put your hands over your ears and you stop the noise and you black everything out, and it's just peaceful.
Yeah,
that's what, when I'm praise and worship, that's what it does for me. And it has always had that effect on me. For me, I didn't actually realize because of everything I was going for ages, that it was that was that calling, that tugging, that come home feeling. Because there was a time when I wouldn't go to church for ages, because I just thought, you know what, I feel too ashamed for everything. Like, I felt too ashamed. I felt
just being judged.
I used to just, so I wouldn't go. Like, when I went to church, when I went to church once with all 4 of my boys, and it was one of my son's dedications, and a lady tapped me on my shoulder, and she was like, "Oh, cover your shoulders, your dress is too revealing." And I thought to myself, it's taken me so much to get here, to bring my child here to be dedicated, and you're busy worrying about my shoulders showing. I just thought, I can't. things like that just kept happening, and it just made me be like, I don't want to come back no more. I would rather be at home than come here to be subject to your rules and regulations. So
well,
it was
we're going to welcome you to the Giver of Dominion platform in a minute, so you just wait there. So I want you to take us back to the fight you had in the year 2018. And this was the fight for you, which
careful.
This shows a committed to the cause of unconditional love for her children.
Post, obviously, my granddad and my nephew passing away, and I had that. I went into that depression that was just wow. Because of obviously I have my care team, they was like, oh, are you managing the children and things? Because my children were spending a lot of time with my mum, with their fathers. So the local social services, children's services got involved, and they put my children on a child protection plan for neglect, basically. They said that I'm not able to meet their needs with everything that's going on. And then following that, they initiated a proceedings to have my children removed from me. I have never ever fought for anything in my whole entire life like I have fought for my children. At 14 years old, when I found out I was pregnant, I stood in my parents' face and I'm pregnant and I'm having a baby. I didn't tell them I'm pregnant and I'm having a termination, I'm pregnant, and I told them exactly what I'm gonna do. I said to anyone that said to me, you're not turning out to be nothing, I turned it around and said to them, I'm at school. I didn't drop out of school. I stayed in school. I did my GCSEs. I had a 10-month-old baby through some of my GCSEs, teething at night time, not getting no sleep and going to sit GCSEs. I have fought for my children from the moment I had one. When they said to me my children could be removed from me, I said to them, I have always done what I know to do. I can't do something I don't know to do. So if you're telling me I am not meeting their needs, it's because nobody has shown me or told me how to. So rather than telling me I'm not meeting their needs, show and tell me how to meet their needs. Because they won't go anywhere but with me. Because when social services ask them, where do they want to stay? Do they want to stay with me? Do they want to stay with their nan? Do they want to stay with their dad? Every child said, I want to be with them, with their mum. And I said to them, me personally, when I was being abused, anywhere was better than home. I chose to go into the local authorities' care because anywhere was better than home. But my children, without me being there, are telling you they want to be with their mum. Home can't be that bad. As I said, I had to do parenting assessment, cognitive assessment, psychological assessment. I had an in-home parenting worker, parenting intervention officer. I was doing everything in my power to be taught how to be a mum, and not just a mum in terms of cooking and cleaning, because I could do that without question. I learned that. I had house training from, that was nothing. But in terms of meeting their emotional and well-being needs, I didn't even know how to meet my own. So if I can't meet my own, how can you expect me to meet someone else's? So I had to attend a domestic violence course, to make sure that I can say I can keep myself safe. If I can keep myself safe, I can keep my children safe. I can recognize things. I'm, setting boundaries routines, structure, just general structure in our household. I learned how. I spent the last 2 years doing that. And last week Thursday, not only was we told all court proceedings have been stopped, I was also told that I have been not just stepped down from child protection. Our case with social services has been closed. We are no longer subject to children's services.
Hallelujah.
After 2 years.
Boy, the power of the Almighty. Let me just calm myself. I can see Gems there. Those tears of joy now, Gems. They was just, I saw them. I'm feeling you. I am feeling you. Hannah, Miss Hannah, Queen Hannah. That name that you know was given to you has meaning to it. Wow, your testimony is going to help others. God is moving on your behalf. Believe that. Amen. Well done. That is amazing. Z says, Hannah, you are amazing. We know the Spirit of the Lord is coming. Come closer, Gems. I want to hear that.
Definitely a child of
Absolutely.
He's definitely a child of God.
Amen. Look at
Start.
from the start. Hallelujah. That is
So true.
Sorry, Pastor Lloyd.
So true. She is.
Yeah.
That is so true. Her testimony is very powerful. It's going to help a lot of people. It just brings me tears, you know, because we need to hear more things like this, true talk, and how people experience their own journey. And God is amazing, because I'm telling you, every week, Diane, this platform, you come with some powerful testimonies. And I just want people to know, no matter what condition we are in, only God is going to take us through.
Hallelujah.
So thank you, Anna. You got a beautiful spirit and you made me cry. And thank you for sharing your story. In Jesus'
Honestly.
name.
Thank you, Pastor Lloyd. Thank you, Gems, Z, CJ, everyone in the comments. I just want to say that when I was talking, when Hannah was telling me about how she got her name, let them know about the name, because that's important.
Yeah, my mum was determined to call me Lauren. I don't know why, but she just liked the name. Literally, I was born and my dad said to me, said to my mum, no, her name's Hannah. My dad looked at me and he just said her name's Hannah. So that was that. And from I've lived, Hannah means grace and favor. Hannah means you have God's grace and favor. I have lived, I'm a living testimony of God's grace and God's favor.
Hallelujah.
Everything that I go through, some of the things I say to people, having the fact that I have all my children and I'm in contact and, you know, I have all my children with me. God alone has kept my kids with me, because there's so many times that things have happened and social services or so forth that they could have stepped in and removed them. There's, you know, younger. I literally say to people, God allowed that to happen because he knew my testimony later on, it was going to be something that people needed to hear.
Absolutely.
Because I refuse to be subject to what, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I experienced it, yeah, but I'm not going to live with that hanging over me. I don't feel that is going to be beneficial to me, and I don't feel that is going to be beneficial to what I want to achieve out of my life. And I don't want my children seeing me constantly being like, woe is me, I've experienced this. Woe is me, I've experienced that. They don't need that.
No. Didn't I tell you this woman was amazing? Didn't I tell you? I'm glad, because I always say when I have meetings with the guests, I always like them to not give me everything, because I want to be just as amazed as the viewers, as my guests on the show. Well, you know, my avid followers then. And I honestly do get blown away when I hear the truth of what is being shared about your life, and it's just totally amazing. I asked Hannah also of a scripture that was her go-to scripture, and this is what she gave me. She gave me Romans 8:18, and I'm going to read it from the True Living Bible, because you are a true living testimony, believe me. And it reads this: yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will give us later. Now, you can read the King James. I haven't got it all up, but what a scripture. What a go-to scripture. Yet what we suffer now is nothing. And as you heard Hannah say, no matter what was going on in her life, her children, taking responsibility for your children and ways to keep them safe, you being unwell throughout their childhood, you know, you struggle with emotional needs, or you struggled with emotional needs, hence your mother being a great support system for you during this journey. There are, and I've worked in children and families, I've worked in a system where I've seen children being removed for less than yours or more than yours. And for you to have 5, and that number 5 is God's number. That means grace again, full of grace. That is grace abound, the number 5. So everything about your life is purpose built. Is purpose built. And that praise report that you just gave us, case closed, all of them intact, you all together, no separation. You did fight. You fought a good fight of faith, because you believed. What you said to me was, no matter what, you didn't think you had this relationship with the Lord the way you should have, but you found yourself in church or praise and worship because you felt something tugging at you, pulling at you. And that something, as you described to us, was, be still and know that I am God. Oh my God, glory to his name. Glory, just chills, nice chills have just come through me. What a woman, what a lady, what a young, beautiful person to behold this platform, to speak life. Hannah, I applaud you, and I'm sure everybody else does. We've got some more messages in here. Lisa Williams, amen. Chantel says, powerful in many ways, you are amazing, Hannah. Kerry says, thank you so much for sharing your journey and testimony, Hannah. It was and continues to be powerful. You are brave, courageous, and very inspiring. Thank you. I needed to hear all of this today. Absolutely. Z says, Hannah, what advice would you give to other mothers who are struggling with assessing mental health support and services? And Hannah, you have got a blog. You're a blogger, aren't you?
Yeah, I blog about life with being a mum. Basically, being a mum, having bipolar disorder, being a trauma survivor, yeah, just general life. I needed an outlet. I needed an outlet to, at first it was just an outlet to get everything that was going on in here out. I needed to be able to address things and, you know, like assess things. But it just wasn't, you know, like talking therapy, it just was not working for me.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, when I was going through stuff, I always used to write a diary. So that was my outlet, and I thought, you know what, let me try it again, but in blog form, kind of. And yeah, it's opened so many doors for me in terms of meeting people who are dealing with things just like me, and you know, they're just trying to keep it going.
What is your blog name? For people,
The Journal of a Bipolar Mum.
So the Journal of a Bipolar Mum, and you can be found on Facebook
and Instagram.
Instagram
is not as active for blog posts. I'm more posting my blog, like my journal entries, on my Facebook. My Instagram, I kind of keep pictures and things. I realized that due to blackouts and things, I didn't have a lot of photos. So when I discovered Instagram, I was like, yay, photos galore.
That's the one. That's the one. So with what Z was asking, I should guess, Z, that it would be for advice with mental health. Seek professional intervention. Go to your GP. Like with anything that you've heard, and I'm
sorry, Diana. No, what I was trying to say is, as we know, there's a lot of black women that get failed within the mental health services, trying to seek services, and they're diagnosed wrong. So what I'm saying to Hannah, you had persistence when you went back, when you said, you know, you were hearing voices. You stated that you wasn't leaving the hospital. You know, that power, that might is somebody who knew that I need to be seen. There's a lot of women that fall through the net. Yeah. You know, they listen to what's being said and they're suffering at home. So that's what I was asking. Is there other organisations that you know of that people can go to for support, you know, like charities or anything? Or would you just say that, you know, they've got to have a support system? You had your mum. So, you know, I'm just looking at those women. You know, we all have maybe a friend that's going through things.
Absolutely,
and, yeah. I always tell my friends, go and see your GP. I'm not medically trained, but, you know, just if there's any organisations then that can support or can point them, or who can be an advocate for them, because a lot of people don't have that voice to talk up.
Absolutely.
I said I went to A&E that day because I just thought, you know what, one of two things is going to happen today. Either you're going to help me or I'm going to go and do some harm to myself. And you're not legally allowed to let me out here, Pear, knowing that I've told you I'm going to go and do some harm to myself. But prior to that stage, like I said, I'd rang my GP and I'd said to them, I need to speak to someone. And it was I was very clear with how I said it. I need to speak to someone. Someone needs to see me. I'm still waiting for that phone call back now. How many years later?
Wow.
Yeah. So I say, like there is an actual website, and I don't know the number off by heart, but Crisis. It helps people with who are in mental health crisis, literally mental health crisis. You don't have to have a diagnosis. You don't have to have you know, like what I have, CPN, psychiatrist. You don't have to have that. You can literally be in a mental health crisis or know someone who is in a mental crisis. You can they've got a website. You can go on the website, get the phone number, call them up, and they can direct you or direct who's calling on your behalf to services, to outlets. Mind UK is a charity I can't praise enough. They have helped me when I was doing my like I said, I had legal stuff going on with the kids. They advocated for me, you know, separate from social services, because I said to the social worker, a lot of the time I said to her, when I was in meetings and things, I would be quiet. And I said to her, I'm not being quiet because I have nothing to say. I have a lot to say, but I don't know how to say it because you keep telling me I'm being rude, and I'm also not understanding some of the words you're using. So if I'm not understanding the words you're using, how am I meant to know? Yeah. So
Amen.
they provided, like, they provide so much help in so many ways. Like Mind UK, I cannot praise them enough for the work they do. And there is a Mind in every borough. Every borough of everywhere, like the UK, has their own Mind. So yeah, it's accessible, and they're free. They're free charitable organization where you can go and, you know, like if you're seeking like therapy, if you're you want to be directed, basically they can signpost you to where you need to go, or what, you know, like what help they couldn't advise you. Like with me, with the advocacy, they told me, oh, we actually have someone here who does advocating in that circumstance, you know, like for that kind of circumstance and that thing. So if they haven't got someone in-house, they will signpost you to where you need to be, and they don't just direct you there, they will make sure a connection is made before they step back. And they don't necessarily step back, they do check in to say, oh, how is it going with ... or, you know, did that work out, can we do there's that. Adult social care, every borough, every council has adult social care. They are able to also signpost and help. I say persistence key, because especially with today's circumstances, you know, that they kind of overwhelmed. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And if they can sweep you under the carpet, I don't mean to say that negatively, but, you know, if they can get away with sweeping you under the carpet, they will do. So adult social care is there to help, but you have to. I can give you a prime example. Years ago, I rang social services once, and I said to them, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. They literally said, oh, they asked me what I'm struggling with, basically, and then they was like, oh, you know, you could get help from the GP for things like that. Again, brushing me off. It means that they don't have to deal with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, like persistence is key. Otherwise, if they can, you know, if they can fob you off to someone else, they will more than happily do so. As bad as it sounds.
Would you suggest that in cases as such where people want immediate help, like immediate, and I think a lot of,
if you are like basically, when I went into hospital that day, that was crisis point. That was okay. You know, there's nowhere to. Nothing else that I hit rock bottom, basically. I'm crisis. In that circumstance, it was a case of call 999 or go to A&E. Get yourself there, because there is always an on-duty psychiatrist. Like I said, with me, I was seen by the duty one, who, you know, will make the call as to what you need right then. Whether that be, we need to admit you, we need to get home treatment team, there is an on-duty psychiatrist at every A&E that is there to do that.
And they have to keep you there. They can't let you go.
They basically, they deem that you are a risk to yourself or other people, they can't legally let you go.
Okay.
Because in theory, they're enabling you. And if something happens and you've obviously been there and they've let you go, then they would have to have you sign against medical advice.
Nice.
If you're not of sound mind, that signature is then technically invalid.
Invalid, yeah. The mental.
It will cause a lot of legal issues if something happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they would rather, even if it is to keep you overnight and, you know, like see where it goes kind of
Yeah,
thing.
safeguarding.
That,
Station.
Yeah,
they would
safe.
rather do that than send you on your travels and
Be responsible for anything.
yeah.
Wow. So Z, I hope that was handy for you. There's also like because the topic is on bipolar, and it's known that a lot of extreme cases can't pass through the channels as going undiagnosed. Bipolar Disorder UK is a good, and bipolar disorder awareness. It's a good website to go and have a look on, because it breaks it down as to, you know, we all have symptoms of what these things are, but we just brush them off as nothing because we're not monitoring ourselves. So with that said, I just want to say I'm not the expert here, and this show is not to confirm any of the topics discussed. It's solely to inform you and activate your centers of awareness to begin the journey of transformation. If you recognize anyone, if you are someone who recognizes the symptoms that you've heard discussed on tonight's platform, or you recognize any of the symptoms in somebody around you, please seek professional intervention. Be that person that they can talk to. Or if you haven't got somebody, we live in a world where we have a vast amount of access to professionals. We've got the internet. I know sometimes we bombard ourselves with so much information that we become drowned in it, but seek therapy. And with what I'm hearing Hannah say, and I'm also hearing what Z's saying as well, when it comes to those are people just being misdiagnosed or even being sent into these institutions with none of what, you know, especially none of what we know to be, and come out worse than when they went in. And this is what we're up against right now in especially in the Black communities, where it's a high portion of institutionalized women and men being, you know.
Can I just say also, Diana, the reason why this, you know, this is, I'm so glad that you've done this platform, because 6 years ago, I lost my cousin. We didn't know in the family, well, I didn't know, it was a taboo at the time. My cousin also suffered from bipolar. She didn't live in the UK, they lived in Florida. And it was quite a hush-hush in the family. I don't know why, but, you know, I used to speak to her. I used to see a lot of, you know, posts she used to post, and I used to give her a lot of, you know, counselling online and talk to her. But unfortunate for my cousin, she wasn't able to access any kind of support or help, and she ended up jumping 60 feet to her death because of the voices that consistently were heard in her head. So that's why it's very, very personal to me when I see friends or other people going through things, and knowing that at the end of the day, Nadine was only 24 at the time. She hadn't even had children yet. So, you know, this thing, it's not even a thing, this illness is real. And, you know, a lot of the times, you know, every single one of us on this platform has got a friend or a family member who's going through times or going through mental health. We all have it. We all have highs and lows, but it's not shunning them away, and it's making sure that there is a voice for them and standing up for them and saying, look, they need help. You know, let's stop having, especially within our Black community. Yes, you know, I'm a believer in God, and God, he does amazing things. He can do all and beyond. But sometimes medication is also needed to help.
And it is.
You know,
yeah,
it is. You know, we've got to remember that. I don't just want to hear that. Oh, we're gonna. Yes, we can pray it out,
but we have to seek advice.
We also need to seek advice and counsel too, so that there isn't fatality. So, you know, you touched a nerve here with me. I feel, you know, I feel joy that I'm listening to, you know, a success story. And, you know, I pray and wish all the best for you in your life going forward. And I know that you are going to touch. I wish my cousin had you know, we didn't even have, I don't even think we had IG that, you know, we wasn't on IG like we were back then when she was going for a thing. She just needed someone to possibly talk with or know that, you know, what she's going through, she's not alone. But, you know, she's resting now. That's all I can say.
Like I said, Z, thank you for sharing that. And I always say at the beginning of every platform, I understand that some of these topics are sensitive and personal to people, and I'm very mindful of it. And this is why I do these, because I know how important it is in this time. And even when I was researching this, there's so many topics that I've done, that I've researched, that have resonated with me, that I know I've been there, going through it, and hope to God I don't end up having to repeat the cycle because of the awareness. That's why this is here. And if we can have this conversation going and touching all these subjects that are taboos, as Z said, in the community, we will save lives. At least, you know, try our best to do that. And that's really what I aim to do with where we sit right now. And Hannah, your story has been a living testimony, and like we all said, we can't thank you enough for still being here, able to speak on the subject, having still all 5 of your children, which is just amazing. And I'm so looking forward to where you go with your journey and touching the lives of other young people. Because when I look at you, you don't even look 31. You look like you're 15. You know what I'm saying? 15, 5 children. My God. Honestly, that.
I'm reading your book, Hannah.
Yes, the book.
Yeah, I look forward to reading your book, and I want the first signed copy.
Ooh, that's a big request there, Gems. We can't hear you, Hannah. You're muted.
It's been put on hold at the moment. I was commissioned at the start of the year before COVID to put my blog entries into book form for they wanted to turn my blog entries into a book, the Journal of a Bipolar Mum. But because lockdown was happening and stuff, and I was just a bit, I said to them, I just be putting it on hold. So yeah, we're going to be revisiting that. It will be available on Amazon in hardback and Kindle form.
We're on it. We're going to revisit.
Absolutely. You are amazing.
She really is. She really is.
You are so amazing.
Really.
And I don't cry usually, but you had me in tears.
There was mixed emotions there, Jen. I saw you go on your down, and then you just came right back up when you heard about that praise report. I saw that. Yeah, definitely. Hannah and everyone else, I'm mindful of the time, and you know, we've got another message here from Kerry. This platform is so powerful and a blessing. It's needed. So, you know, they are not alone in their experiences. I look forward to it too. Thank you very much, Kerry. Chantel says, can you list the organization that has helped support you? I'm going to get those one by one from the lovely Hannah, and I'm going to put them on my pages and send them to you so you can have access to them. So don't worry, after I shut down the platform, I'm going to forward you the sound advice that has been given to all the organizations that Hannah has used, and some key and she doesn't like to use the word as an illness. She calls it a diagnosis. She corrected me on that, so I'm mindful of the language. The diagnosis of having bipolar disorder. So with that said, my darling Hannah and everybody else, who is Hannah, the bipolar mum, really? Before we close down this platform, who is Hannah? I just wanted I
am Hannah, the bipolar mum. I am a survivor, I am a fighter, and I am more than a diagnosis.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Exactly that. Exactly that. And you have blessed us today. You have graced this platform. You spoke so eloquently of your journey, of your story, of your truth. You have touched lives today. You have transformed the minds of others. You brought Z to a place, but she was thankful in the same token to hear the positive. For her, it was a negative, but she's heard a positive outcome. And everyone else who has been a part of today's platform, I hope you have been informed, well informed, should I say, of Hannah, the bipolar mum. So thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much. And again, an end of another great platform. I'm looking forward to next week. Scotty's going to be joining me soon, so he'll be back. I've got something big in the pipeline for you guys coming. I really have. I'm like, God is God is an awesome God. He really is. So from me, the host, Dinah Lewis, I thank you all. Pastor Lloyd, Gems, our guests, Hannah, Chantel, Kerry, Sean, CJ, Lisa, Z. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And let's continue to keep this movement going. Yeah? It's love. It's love. See you on the platform for Saturday. I've got another amazing study for you because I'll be teaching for this month of September. All right? Until such time, take care. Hannah, keep growing, keep rising, keep being an amazing mum, and I'll see you all soon. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.